the border wall President Trump has been trying to build, is it symbolic or effective tool to limit illegal immigration?
I believe it's a little bit of both. Truth is, people are coming into the United States with visas, and then they overstay the visas and don't return. And it seems that a larger and larger number are coming that way. Border crossings are still fairly prevalent, but not nearly as much so. And if you have a physical barrier, large groups would find it difficult to cross. Plus, it allows the border guards that we have in Border Patrol to round them up and stop them. So, to a degree, it's symbolic, plus it's what Trump promised when he was running the first time. And another, to a degree, it is actually somewhat effective.
There are 11 million undocumented people here, so what should the government do about them?
Well, the government can actually physically round them up. They can physically return them back to their home countries. It's possible. It's unlikely anyone would want to do it. The general public in the United States likes immigrants. They just don't like it when people don't follow the rules we have here. The same reasoning, you have a household, it doesn't matter where you are. You have rules as to when you eat dinner, whether you're on your phones or off your phones when you're eating it. There are all kinds of rules. People have a country the same way. You want to come to the United States, we have a format to follow. You ask for entry, you go through a number of background checks, then you wait in line, and when it's possible, you come to the United States. Unfortunately, because the United States is very popular worldwide, too many people are wanting to come here. And a number of them decide, well, those are rules for them. We're different. We're special. We're going to come anyway. Now, some have legitimate reasons, like maybe they're persecuted in their own country, and we, the United States, do want to protect them. But there's only so much one country, no matter how powerful, can do for the entire world. So there need to be some limits and steps. So yes, we could remove them. We're not going to basically for humanitarian reasons, but we need to fix the situation to stop too many coming when we can't absorb.
How about kids? You know, some kids that will go here, they can so
Kids are interesting. They don't have a choice. If you're a little kid, your parents say, go someplace, what do? You go. So I would look at them differently, and the American public, on average, believes that the kid should be able to stay. But that brings up a secondary problem. How can you keep kids here and send the rest of the family home? That becomes another problem. You're separating families, which Americans really don't want to do. But they also don't want people to take advantage of the United States. Just to give you an example, California supposedly has 500,000 kids who are from undocumented families. 500,000. The last I heard, California is spending about $8,000 to $10,000 per student per year to put them through elementary through high school. So that's $8,000 to $10,000 per pupil per year. You multiply that times 500,000 kids, that's $4 billion for just one state. Now granted, we are a big state, we have a giant economy, but that's still a lot of money that the other taxpayers are paying. Then you hear comments where people say, well, undocumented workers actually do pay taxes. That is and is not true. If you're working for an employer who deducts money from your check and you're illegally here, they may send it to the government, but it goes into a special fund that's accumulated and it's not being used. On the other hand, a lot of people work under the table for cash. And then what happens is, where does that money go? Well, it doesn't go anywhere. And so it unfairly burdens the people who are here legally and who are citizens who were born here. It's not fair to them. So to allow these 11 million people in the entire country to stay, they need to pay their back taxes, they need to pay interest and penalties. They also need to go to the back of the line behind the people who have asked to enter the U.S., following the U.S.'s rules and doing it the right way. That would be fair, and we came close to that with the Gang of Eight Senators.
Should there be limits on immigration?
Well, you really don't have a choice. If I've got a car and the car has a rating for 8 passengers, could I put 12 passengers in there? Probably. Is it wise or advisable? No. because when you're driving on the highway, the springs might give out, you might not be able to control the steering. Well, countries are very much the same. The economy can only grow so fast. The faster it grows, the more money it pays to the workers and the people who live. If you have too many people here, what happens is the respective salaries of all the people tends to go down. The ones who are not affected are the ones who never notice it, who are very wealthy, so they don't care. But the people who are working people do care. If you're in construction and you hire legal citizens who are here, you have to pay them a fair wage, you have to pay all their insurance coverage, you have to pay their taxes. On the other hand, you hire somebody who's here illegally, you know they're not going to complain. You pay them half the wage and you pay them in cash, they're going to stay quiet. So that unfairly affects people who are working fairly and following the rules. That's another major cost that people without proper documentation cost to the rest of people who are here legally.
How about migration? How does it from immigration?
Migration just means large groups of people move from one place to the other. That's been going on since civilization. So if you go back to the Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Phoenicians, you go back to ancient China, you go back to Vietnam, you go on the Remain, which is basically in Cambodia. Any civilization, if there's a center of power where the economy is very strong, people from outlying areas will want to go there for economic opportunity. It's just normal. That's where the money is, that's where the jobs are, that's where I want to go. So that's basic migration. The way I view immigration is countries know this and they create laws and steps that you must follow before you can enter their specific country. And they base it on their ability to absorb additional people. For example, Japan right now, the country's population is aging. The young people don't want to get married and have kids. So the population is actually shrinking. So what are they looking at? They're looking at numerous robots, all kinds of robots and everything. So they could actually absorb more immigrants, but they don't. Problem with the Japanese is it's a very homogeneous society. You can be non-Japanese, live there for 5 generations, they still know you're non-Japanese. And so that's a problem. The difference with the United States is, if you're here for 2-3 generations, you're an American. Frequently, people who live here a long time but may have immigrated from another country consider themselves American. And I would be an example. I turned 8 in the harbor of New York when we entered. I don't think of myself as a Dutchman from the Netherlands. I think of myself as an American who happens to know a little bit about the Netherlands because that was my original country of birth. But I'm pretty much completely American. So the United States can absorb, we can do that, but again, immigration is just a form of rules and laws that you follow to enter that country, whereas migration, you just go to where the money is for the economic opportunity.